This mission is a simple in and out. Agent Valerian, you'll be running solo.
I only work with my partner.
Hi.
We're a team. Let's go.
Hello, and welcome to Film Rant. Valerian is one of those movies I literally knew nothing about, but the trailers grabbed my attention. Plus it stars Cara Delevingne, who, let's face it, she's canny banging, and better looking me, Dane DeHaan. I like Dane, I enjoyed him in Chronicle, and I didn't think he was all that bad in Amazing Spider-Man 2 either. You could say I'm a Dane DeFan. Sorry guys. Cara was fine in Suicide Squad even if the character itself was a bit shit, so you know, this movie piqued my interest. It's a shame the title sounds like a fucking Panic at the Disco song though, Valerian in the City of 1,000 Planets. Just seems a bit too wordy to me. The only difference between martyrdom and suicide is press coverage. Jesus Christ, that's ridiculous. Also, Valerian is based on the book Valerian and Laureline, so I guess Laureline wasn't important enough to warrant being in the title of the movie, right? Make of that what you will. It's directed by none other than Luc Besson though, famed director of The Fifth Element, Leon and Lucy, so this movie has a lot going for it. Two decent leads, an interesting new sci-fi universe to get your mitts on, and a talented director at the helm. Does it deliver though? Well, I'll go into spoiler territory for that, so plot hole your way down to the cinema and watch the movie if you don't want anything spoiled. Now, let me just check the casting person for this. Was it Stevie Wonder? No way, it would have to be Michael Jackson, because you'd have to be fucking stone cold dead to not notice that Dane and Cara have about as much chemistry as my GCSE results did. I mean, good God. I guess they'd kind of work if they were purely a platonic couple, but the fact that they're meant to be an item is astounding. They just cannot sell that they're remotely interested in each other whatsoever. It's like watching a real life version of that thing you used to do when you were a kid and you'd make your action men kiss and... You know that thing, right? Or was that just me? Anyway, yeah, it's like that. In fact, the action men probably sold it better. I feel like Dane or Cara could have had a better on-screen romance if their other half was a fucking traffic light. I honestly can't decide if they're so bad because they were poorly written, poorly acted, or because they just didn't click. Because all three of those things are abundantly obvious in the movie. Their performance is nearing that of those in The Room after the cast got sick of Tommy Wiseau's shenanigans and decided to basically just burn off the rest of their scenes with shit performances. Dane's character is a bit of a dick but is a relatively competent hero. Cara's character is just a bit flat. She's so generic badass woman it beggars belief. She then decides to fall in love with Dane at the end, even after he's still really being a bit of a dick the whole movie. He doesn't show any real change in character to show he's changed into what she wants him to be. There's flashes here and there, but certainly not enough for me to think she'd let him in his pants. If I wouldn't do it, then she certainly wouldn't, and I'd tell him to swerve because I could do so much better. I can't believe the movie ends with them falling in love as if it's some big "oh" moment. The only "oh" I let out was when I finally got to have a piss after the movie finally ended its 5-decade runtime. They honestly could not have picked two worse actors to star alongside each other playing shite characters. Marilyn Manson and Paris Hilton would have been a better couple for fuck's sake. Thankfully, the movie does have a somewhat decent character with everyone's favourite, strike that, formerly everyone's favourite R&B superstar Rihanna. You know, because every song she's released since 2012 has been about as enjoyable as a night in Jared Fogel's house. But surprisingly, I really liked her in Valerian. She's not in the movie long enough for you to tell she's a shit actress, and quite frankly, Dane and Cara's performances already set the bar pretty low. But what there is of her is very enjoyable. She plays an alien who can basically morph into any other creature, and Dane uses her to sneak into some embassy. Interestingly, her character is given a backstory where she basically tells us how she's an immigrant and was forced out of where she came from. I thought that was some interesting depth to give to her, and I wondered what was going to come of it, and I really looked forward to... Oh, no, she's dead. She's dead, guys. Yeah, she's in the movie for about 15 to 20 minutes before she falls down a hole and basically says, "Oh, by the way, guys, I must have got hurt in the battle, so I'm going to die now by doing my best impression of Chris Pratt's marriage and crumble into dust for no fucking reason." I don't get why they did that. Why Aha! Because she's a plot device that's too powerful to be kept alive, that's why. An alien that can take the form of any character in the movie? Yeah, that's plot hole central. Best kill her off quickly, guys. Okay, I get why she had to die, but that just made her a bigger plot device than Lawrence Fishburne in Passengers. She wasn't even explicitly needed to begin with. The guys in charge tell Dane that he can't just go into this embassy place guns blazing because it'll cause a galactic incident. So he spends 10 minutes watching Rihanna dance in various outfits, then gets her to get him inside. Once he's inside, he kinda goes all guns blazing, defeating the point for her entire existence in the movie. Just cut her out. It pissed me off that they gave a plot device a somewhat interesting backstory only to kill her off minutes later. It just made no sense. I feel Rihanna should have been in the movie much more because she was thoroughly enjoyable, or not in the movie at all. So as for the script, what year is it, guys? Who's the Prime Minister? It was 2017 and Theresa May was the Prime Minister when I went in to see Valerian, and it's been so long I have to ask. Did Newcastle United ever win the Premier League? Did Donald Trump get impeached? Did Donald Glover ever play Spider-Man? All these questions. Wait, what? It's still 2017? How? Like that joke, this movie went on forever. I honestly felt like I could have held a rock and it would have eroded by the time this movie finished. It's 2 hours 17, which is pretty standard in today's superhero-ridden Hollywood, but my god did it feel like so much longer. I thought the trailers were good because they didn't give away much of the plot, which is a breath of fresh air in today's superhero-ridden Hollywood. I was excited to go into Valerian and find out what all these wonderful looking places and aliens were all going to do with each other, and by the time I reached my 57th birthday I realised there is no plot. Not until the last 10 minutes or so anyway. It's not that nothing happens, it's just that none of it is remotely interesting. The script is like a first draft where the writer was being as thorough as possible explaining how a character gets from A to B, or how a character comes across a certain object, fully expecting the director in subsequent redrafts to shorten and smoothen parts to make the runtime better. But no, Luc Besson must have just said, "Aye mate, I trust your script, it's spot on, so we'll just go and make it." It takes about 25 minutes to explain 2 minutes worth of plot. There's a scene I mentioned earlier where Dane has to go into an embassy. To avoid causing a galactic incident, he has to find Rihanna. Instead of just cutting to him immediately finding her, they introduce a character who owns the brothel for no reason whatsoever. They show Dane talking to him and asking about Rihanna. We see Rihanna dance for 5 minutes, and then we have a scene where he has to convince Rihanna to help him. Twice. Then Dane gets into the embassy anyway and causes a galactic incident. Just cut the lot of it and have him siege the embassy. The whole plot point would be over in 5 or 10 minutes. I'm glad this movie didn't have a sex scene because it would show them getting into bed, putting on Rick and Morty on Netflix. Dane would lean over and whisper, "I was the Green Goblin, you know." In her end, she'd give in to his unresistible qualifications and urge him to hire a condom on. He'd walk over to the drawer, find there's none left, and run down to his local Spar to get a pack of rubbers. Come back, slowly open the packet, wrap his chode and go to town. It wouldn't surprise me if it'd show the fucking shower after and tell us in explicit detail how Dane DeHaan washes his toes. Valerian is just overwhelmingly dull, far too long, in desperate need of editing and a complete restructure of the movie, which I'm going to pitch now. So take your seats, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Listen Up Pitches! Yeah, I came up with that name. Okay, so I'd entirely cut that intro part with those pearl collecting aliens. It's not needed whatsoever. I'd open the movie with DeHaan lying on the sun lounger with Kara and suddenly being hit by the soul wave thing. He eventually kinda shrugs it off and gets on with his day the same way the movie does. We have the mission where he has to steal a converter from Jabba Goodman, but cut it down drastically. That sequence was far too long. We then have them return to Alpha where Valerian and Laureline are told about the mysterious tumour system grown within Alpha. During a victory speech by the bad commander, who we don't know is bad, the mysterious alien race attacks and kidnaps him. Valerian and Laureline's mission is to get the commander back. The good commander finds out about Mul somehow and begins investigating. The audience knows as much about this planet as any of the humans in the movie do. Don't make it blindingly obvious that the bad commander guy is a villain covering up his tracks. The good commander is hitting all of these firewalls, stopping him from finding out about this planet. Everything points to Mul, but we're never enlightened as to what happened there. Keep the suspense going. Valerian and Laureline journey to the centre of Alpha, encountering various obstacles and challenges along the way. Some from less than hospitable alien races, maybe cross some zones that aren't inhabitable by humans, that kind of thing. Completely remove the segment where Valerian gets lost and Laureline has to find a fucking jellyfish to find out where he went. What a useless segment that was. We can cut Rihanna, but maybe keep the embassy infiltration part. We get to the ending where Valerian and Laureline discover that the tumour thing was a lie. They start to question what's going on. That's when they find the wall. They go through the wall and the commander is lay on the floor by himself. The room's dark. They approach cautiously and before they get to the commander, boom! Lights come on and they're surrounded on all sides by this mysterious alien race. Val goes to pull out his gun but is quickly disarmed. Then we have a dialogue between them where Val is like, "Let the commander go!" And the aliens have to explain to him that the commander is actually the bad guy. They win Val over by activating the mysterious wave soul that hit him at the start of the movie, and everything is revealed. Who these aliens are, what happened to them, why the converter and Pearl are so important, what the commander has been up to all this time. Then the end battle takes place exactly the same way and the film ends as it does. I think that's a much more coherent, shorter and more structured version of the film that would have worked much better. Not saying I'm a better writer or director than Luc Besson, but I think that movie would have been a little more successful, even if it is a bit run-of-the-mill. Run-of-the-mill surely beats confusingly boring though. That's all I can really say on the script. It's that boring I can't even talk about specific events that happen because they're just not interesting enough. But I can talk about how it's boring and how I think it can be improved. That's all negatives though, and it would be harsh to say that Valerian is a total failure because there is some parts that show some glimmer of inspiration. I really enjoyed the idea of the interdimensional heist scene. I think it was executed about as well as an O.J. Simpson murder investigation, but the thought was there. That's something I've never really seen in a movie before, other than The Matrix you could argue, although that has a different setup. I thought the initial idea of the Alpha space station was great too, sort of like the Citadel in Mass Effect. I also like some of the character design. Those three little duck-looking motherfuckers were brilliant. They kind of look like the characters they are, sly little gossipers. You just know that they watch Love Island, you know what I mean? Absolute slime. But also quite lovable in a sense. I also thought those K-Tron Geth lookalikes looked brilliant as well. Some of the CGI was wobbly in this movie, but they looked fucking awesome. Valerian has a lot of interesting locations, alien races, and some potentially interesting characters. It's just a shame that the plot in which they all live and the two characters it decides to focus on are all about as interesting as Daenerys Targaryen's introduction.
You stand in the presence of Daenerys Stormborn of House Targaryen, rightful heir to the Iron Throne, rightful Queen of the Andals and the First Men, protector of the Seven Kingdoms. The Mother of Dragons, the Khaleesi of the Great Grass Sea, the Unburnt, the Breaker of Chains.
I hate that self-entitled bitch. As for the technical aspects of the movie, I can't decide if I loved the visuals or really hated them. It's nice in the sense that it's all about as colourful as a gay pride festival in Wonderland, but it's also so CG heavy. Now I'm used to seeing lots of CG in modern movies, but Valerian has to be at least 90% CG. It's just overwhelming. Ultimately, it's like looking at Kim Kardashian's arse. It's a beautiful work of art, but it's just so obviously fake. Some of the CG is just flat out ugly as well, and it really pulls you out of the movie. Valerian may have been able to pass on a boring story and shit characters if it looked fucking amazing, but it even falls mostly flat in that department. It also doesn't help that it's edited about as well as a Logan Paul video.
Music industry hard, bro.
Call me Conor McGregor, bro!
Anyways, I came over the balcony here. You know the Low Gang was missing earlier. I think they came back, dude.
My god, he's just the fucking worst, isn't he? Valerian is just so disjointed, none of it seems to fit together, but I guess that kinda suits the tone of the film. Cara and Dane certainly don't click, so why should the story, right? It's not necessarily edited in a way that would confuse you, it's just put together in a way that makes you think, why did we need to see that? Why are we here? Why are they even relevant? I'm pretty sure there's a scene that flat out has the wrong cut in it as well. There's a scene where the good commander is trying to find out about Mole and he tries to access the files and says, "Who's in charge of this?" Then the screen says, "Access denied," and he walks away. Surely it would have made more sense for him to type something about Mole and then get the access denied message, forcing him to proclaim, "What the hell? Who's in charge of this?" before giving up. Maybe I missed something there, but that edit just seemed totally in the wrong order for me. So overall, Valerian is a film that takes 2 hours 17 to get through while only having 10 minutes worth of plot, and you have to spend it with two characters who are overwhelmingly dull and have absolutely no chemistry with each other. To make matters worse, they're meant to be a couple falling in love too. The movie needs cutting down drastically in terms of script and also edited better to make it more coherent. In fact, fuck it, just rewrite the whole thing. Maybe it was different in the original draft, but as I'm forced to believe this is the initial draft as it is so poor, I have to say whoever greenlit this needs a slap. If they honestly thought this was going to be a good movie, they aren't right in the head. I can't even say that Luc Besson did the best he could with the script, because surely he had some say in Dane DeHaan and Cara Delevingne's casting. Surely he was present at their screen tests and he couldn't see that they just didn't work together. Valerian does have interesting ideas, imaginative alien races and locations, and the odd good character here and there, but none of these are good enough to save it from being a dull, CG-fest, boring movie that has you wishing you were watching something Oscar-worthy like Man of Steel instead. Seriously, this movie warps your mind enough to say something like that. Valerian is the most fun a girl can have without taking her clothes off, gets 2 frames out of 5. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Film Rant.
I taught him how to do that.